Somewhere in the quiet village of Umuebo, a woman sat outside her father's compound, sharpening a kitchen knife against a flat stone. Slowly. Patiently. As if she had all the time in the world. She was not preparing to cook. She was preparing to speak. By the time the sun set that evening, one man would return to the village he swore he would come back to 12 years ago, and he would learn that some promises, once broken, do not simply disappear. They wait. They grow teeth. This is the story of Adaeze, the woman who waited 12 harvests for a man who chose someone else, and the price he paid for thinking silence was the same thing as mercy. The village of Umuebo sat between two rivers, where the red earth cracked in the dry season and the yam mounds rose like small, patient hills. It was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody's business before the person involved even finished deciding what the business was. Adaeze was 19 when Obinna first held her hand under the Udara tree behind the community hall. He was the schoolteacher's son, the boy who read books other boys didn't understand, who spoke of cities across the ocean the way other men spoke of heaven. "I will come back for you," he told her one night, his voice low, his eyes steady in the moonlight. "I promise you, Adaeze. Once I settle down, once I have something to offer, I will come back and marry you properly. Wait for me." She laughed softly, playfully pushing his shoulder. "And if I don't wait? If some rich man from Owerri comes and carries me away? Then I will follow you to Owerri myself," he said, and she believed him, because young love always believes the men who say beautiful things with steady eyes. 3 months later, Obinna boarded a bus to Lagos, and from Lagos, a plane to a country Adaeze had only ever seen drawn in her brother's geography textbook. She was 19 when she started waiting. Her mother, Mama Ngozi, was the first to grow impatient. "Nene, listen to me," she said one afternoon, pounding fufu with more force than the yam required. "Obinna has been gone 2 years now. 2 years. Do you know how many suitors your mate Kameka has turned down waiting for you to wake up?" "Mama, he will come back," Adaeze said, stirring the soup without looking up. "He calls me. He sends money when he can. He is building something for us." "Building what?" Mama Ngozi snapped. "A house of promises. Can you cook promises and feed them to your children?" Adaeze said nothing. She had learned, over the years, that arguing with her mother about Obinna was like arguing with the rain, it would fall regardless of what you believed about clouds. But privately, in the quiet of her room, doubt visited her too. Some nights his calls came weekly. Then monthly. Then, by the 4th year, they came only when he remembered, or when guilt reminded him. Still, she waited. She built a small tailoring business from nothing, sewing wrappers and school uniforms for the village children, saving every kobo she could. When Obinna's mother, Mama Obinna, fell sick in the 6th year, it was Adaeze who nursed her, cooking her pepper soup, rubbing camphor on her chest at night, sitting by her bedside when the old woman's breathing grew shallow and frightened. "You are already my daughter," Mama Obinna whispered to her one evening. "Whether my son remembers his promise or not, you have already proven yourself." Adaeze smiled through tears she didn't let fall. "He will remember, Mama. I know him." But even as she said it, something in her chest had already begun to doubt. By the 8th year, the calls had nearly stopped. Adaeze would sit by the small radio shop in the village square, one of the few places with a working telephone line, waiting for hours on Sundays, hoping Obinna would call as he used to. Sometimes he did. Most times, he didn't. "Adaeze, please," said her younger sister Ifeoma one night, her voice trembling with frustration and love. You have wasted enough of your life on a man who cannot even give you a proper phone call. Look at yourself. You are 27 years old in this village, and every year that passes, the whispers grow louder. What whispers? Adaeze asked, though she already knew the answer. They say you are cursed. They say a man does not run away from home for 8 years unless the woman he left behind carries something bad in her spirit. Adaeze's hands trembled as she folded a wrapper on her lap. Let them talk. I know what is between me and Obinna. Do you? Ifeoma asked quietly. Because I am not sure you do anymore. That night, Adaeze lay awake staring at the raffia ceiling of her room, listening to the cricket outside, and for the first time, allowed herself to whisper the question she had buried for years: what if he is not coming back? But morning always came, and with it, her resolve hardened again like clay left too long in the sun. In the 11th year, Obinna called with news that made Adaeze's heart leap so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Adaeze, he said, his voice crackling faintly over the line, I am ready. I have built something here. A small business. A car. An apartment. I am coming home soon to finally do things properly. I just need to settle a few matters here first. What matters? She asked, breathless. Paperwork, he said quickly. Just paperwork. Trust me. She hung up the phone that day and danced alone in her room like a girl half her age, laughing and crying at once. She told her mother. She told Mama Obinna, whose weekend eyes lit up with joy. She even told Ifeoma, who, for the first time in years, hugged her tightly and said, maybe I was wrong to doubt him. For months, Adaeze prepared. She sewed her own wedding wrapper in secret, using fabric she had been saving for 6 years. She practiced, in her mind, what she would say when Obinna finally knelt before her family to ask for her hand. She did not know that 4,000 miles away, Obinna was standing before another woman's family, asking for her hand instead. The truth did not come from Obinna. It never does it? Truth like that is too heavy for cowards to carry themselves, they leave it for others to deliver. It came through Uncle Fidelis, a relative who had traveled abroad for a business trip and returned with photographs on his phone that he did not know he should have hidden. I did not want to be the one to tell you, he said gently to Adaeze, sitting across from her under the mango tree behind her father's compound. But you deserve to know before the whole village started laughing behind your back. He showed her the photographs. Obinna, dressed in an expensive suit, standing beside a light-skinned woman in a white gown, surrounded by strangers who did not know Adaeze's name, did not know her sacrifices, did not know that 12 years of a woman's life had been quietly poured into a promise her husband had already broken. The wedding had happened 3 weeks earlier. Adaeze did not cry. She did not scream. She simply sat very still, staring at the photograph, as though trying to memorize a language she had never wanted to learn. Does his mother know? She finally asked. Uncle Fidelis shook his head slowly. I don't think anyone here knows yet. That night, Adaeze walked to Mama Obinna's house and sat beside the old woman's bed, holding her frail hand without saying a word about what she now knew. She could not bring herself to break an old woman's heart the way her son had broken hers. 2 weeks later, Mama Obinna passed away in her sleep, never learning the truth, believing until her last breath that her son would return to marry the woman who had cared for her like a daughter. Obinna came home for his mother's burial. The village welcomed him with a mixture of respect and curiosity reserved for men who live poor and return wearing expensive shoes. Women in the market whispered about how handsome and successful he looked. Men slapped his back and called him our son who has made it. Nobody, at first, mentioned Adaeze. But Adaeze was there, standing quietly at the back during the burial rites, dressed simply, her face unreadable, watching the man she had waited 12 years for stand beside his mother's grave with the weight of guilt heavy on his shoulders, though he tried desperately to hide it. After the burial, as relatives gathered to eat and mourn, Obinna finally found the courage, or perhaps the cowardice disguised as courage, to approach her. Adaeze, he said softly, his voice breaking slightly. I wanted to tell you myself. I did not want you to hear it from anyone else. You are 12 years too late for that particular kindness, she replied evenly. He lowered his eyes. I did not know how to tell you. Every time I picked up the phone to call, you did not know how to tell me. Adaeze's voice remained calm, terrifyingly calm. Obinna, I nursed your mother when she was sick. I turned down 3 good men because I believed your words. I built a business with my bare hands while sending you money you probably didn't even need. And you did not know how to tell me. A small crowd had begun to gather at a respectful distance, sensing the shift in the air the way villagers always could. I am sorry, Obinna whispered. I never meant to hurt you like this. You didn't mean to. Adaeze repeated, almost laughing, though there was no humor in it. Obinna, a man does not accidentally marry another woman. A man does not accidentally stay silent for 11 years while a woman wastes her youth waiting for him. You did not stumble into this. You chose it. Every single day you chose silence over honesty, and now you stand here asking me to believe you did not mean it. The crowd murmured. Someone in the back, an older woman, nodded slowly, her arms crossed. I have receipts, Obinna, Adaeze continued, her voice steady but sharp as a blade freshly sharpened. Every transfer I sent you. Every year I marked on my calendar. Every suitor I turned away, I remember their names. I kept records of a life you asked me to pause, and you could not even keep a record of the truth. Obinna had no answer. What answer could a man give to 12 years laid bare in the open air? Word of the confrontation spread through Umuebo faster than harmattan wind. Some villagers blamed Adaeze, whispering the same old cruelty. Why did a grown woman waste her life waiting? Was she not warned? But many more turned their sympathy, and their anger, toward Obinna. A man who cannot be honest with the woman who loved him does not deserve the title of a man, declared Papa Namdi, one of the village elders, during a gathering weeks later. We build this community on truth and responsibility. What Obinna did was cowardice dressed in success. Obinna's new wife, it was later learned, discovered the truth about Adaeze not long after returning abroad, through a cousin who could not resist gossip. Their marriage, built partly on money and partly on Obinna's careful hiding of his past, began to crack under the weight of a truth he had never fully told even his own wife. Adaeze, meanwhile, did not shrink into bitterness. Instead, something in her, long dormant beneath years of waiting, began to bloom. She expanded her tailoring business into a small shop in the village square. She began mentoring young girls, teaching them to sew, but more importantly, teaching them something she wished someone had taught her. Waiting is not the same as loving foolishly, she would tell them. Love someone, yes. But never pause your entire life for a promise a man has not yet proven. A real man does not need 12 years to keep his word.